Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dr. Sally Z. Here. She's a renowned author, educator, and student of community who has spent decades exploring the concept of elders and the importance of embodying wisdom, integrity, and service in the later stages of life. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sally.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
You are welcome to the show, Dr. Sally. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about the transformative power of elderhood. So, Dr. Sally, to understand from you, you talk about, elders as being different from aging. So, help us understand who are the elders here so that people can understand it in simple language.
Thank you for starting with that. Yes, when I turned 70, and now I'm 76, so that was 6 years ago, that felt like a big birthday. And I wanted to be intentional about how I spent the rest of my life. So I actually did research because I'm an old academic, and that's what we do. We do research. And what I learned is that there are more old people on the planet than there have ever been, but fewer elders. So I began to explore what's the difference in an elder and an old person. And I've come to understand that aging is a privilege, that we each get older every day, literally from the first day of birth, if we're fortunate. Life expectancy across the planet has increased rapidly since the early 19th century, although the inequality of how long we can expect to live is still massive within and across countries. In our pre-modern poor world, the lifespan was around 30 years everywhere. And yet elders were important in those early cultures. And oral and written history suggests that we've always had elders. So I came to realize that elder is not about age, but it is about committing with intention to the lifelong journey to wholeness and meaning making.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Dr. Sally. So I want to understand for the audience is that who took away this power of the elders? Is it the elders themselves gave it away, or the new generation took it away from them because they thought that they are very smart, very intelligent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think it has a simple answer, but I think that one of the things that's happened is that in this world in which we place so much adoration on youth, that we've come to disrespect older people. And when we use elder synonymously with old, then it becomes a conundrum of why would I want to do the work to become an elder when nobody is respectful of that? So I think that's part of what's happened, that it's not that anybody's taken it away as much as our culture makes it not desirable.
Right, right. So one thing I want to understand is forget about what others think. Why do people, when they start aging, say 40 plus, 50 plus, then they start branding themselves as getting ready for retirement, retirees, and that perhaps gives an impression not only to the outside world but also to themselves that their role has diminished in whatever sphere of life that they are. Whereas if we look at it from the wisdom part of it, actually their role for society has increased. Help us understand this mindset. Is it about the industry who has actually put all those these versions of aging into their minds and has brought a different sort of a fear, and they are so busy in just thinking about retirement, post retirement, quality of life, that they simply start giving away their importance in society in their own lives after say 50 plus. Help us understand this, Dr. Sally.
What you respectfully call mindset, I think, is a cultural paradigm that's been placed on us by, depending on what you call it, the patriarchy, the colonizing powers. Most people don't ever retire. We don't have that kind of privilege. Farmers certainly don't retire. Most workers don't retire. That's really, I think, an illusion and a negative one. And I love that you lift that up. I think that while we certainly may change our roles as we grow older and grow more experienced and hopefully gain some wisdom, I think retirement is a very false concept and one that's hurt all of us because you're right. It's like something that we think is going to happen to us rather than our claiming our own power. It's part of the reason that I've created what I call a field guide for the journey of a lifetime, the Elder Garden. And what I'd love to do, if it's okay with you, is
Yeah,
just
yeah, please.
read to you from the beginning of the book how I came to call it the Elder Garden.
Yeah.
My mother often told the story that I ran away from home to go to kindergarten. My version was a bit different. I had been waiting my whole life for my 5th birthday. 5-year-olds are supposed to go to kindergarten, but my mother had decided not to send me. She worried that I might feel pushed out of the nest as our family of 4 added the newest baby girl. So I took matters into my own hands. The day after my birthday, I awakened early. I quietly dressed and headed downstairs to the apartment of my best friend, Erwin. Erwin was 3 months older, so I made complete sense of the fact that Erwin already attended kindergarten and would be the perfect partner for my first day. I'm going to kindergarten with you today, I informed Erwin. His mother, I called her Aunt Sarah out of respect, assumed that my mother had approved. Unself-consciously holding hands with Erwin as we walked around the corner to the school, I stopped to pick up several perfect leaves on the Charleston, South Carolina sidewalk. A red maple, a brown with yellow specks oak, a gold ginkgo. I offered them as a gift to my new teacher, oblivious to her calling my mother. Everyone knew everyone in our neighborhood, and convincing her to let me stay. Mother and I told different stories, but they resulted in the same happy ending. I was a kindergarten student. That happy ending was also the happy beginning on a path that would set the direction for my life. I felt at home in this space that invited me to be my best self with everything I needed: community, stories, music, play, snacks, quiet time, naps, and sympathy for my falls with encouragement to try again. We laughed and we cried. We cleaned up our messes. We admired each other's gifts and began to glimpse our own. Now I yearn for a space like the kindergarten I once knew, a space of play and joy, a space for learning and opportunities for continued growth that is inner and outer. I name what I need as the elder garden, the space for me to grow into becoming an elder.
Wonderful, wonderful. From kindergarten to you have done your PhD, and now you are talking about the elder garden, and it is wonderful circle of life indeed, Dr. Sally. So I want to understand then for the audience, for the people, is that when elders are so full of wisdom, society needs it, then is it the fight of the elders to retain their place in society, or is it the fight of the younger generation to make sure that the elders get the right place in society so that they are able to get their wisdom, get all the intelligence that they are trying to look into Google or cat gpts and any other place, because that is also historical information.
I love your question. I think that there's a reciprocity in all of that, that it's a responsibility at both ends. I think that the elder embodies living undivided, claiming a life in which the inner self is integral with ways of being in the outer world, with claiming one's story. And so I felt like I had a responsibility to offer my story in this book. But it becomes, you feel very vulnerable when you offer your story. And I think often elders feel vulnerable when they share their stories with young people. So it's a paradox. It's a responsibility, and yet there's a sense of vulnerability. One of the things that helped me a lot were these words from the theologian Friedrich Buechner. Who cares if I tell my story or share my journey? What in the world could be less important than who I am and who my mother and father were? The mistakes that I have made with the occasional discoveries, the bad times and the good times, the moments of grace. I talk about my life anyway, because if on the one hand, hardly anything could be less important, hardly anything could be more important. My story is important not because it is mine, but because if I tell it anything like right, the chances are you will recognize that in many ways it is also yours. Maybe nothing is more important than that we keep track, you and I, of the stories of who we are and where we have come from and the people we have met along the way. To lose track of our stories is to be profoundly impoverished, not only humanly, but also spiritually. So, in answer to your question, I really feel that both the older generations and the younger generations are on this path together, and it is very much an intergenerational journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about your book, The Elder Garden, a field journey for the journey of a lifetime. So who is this book for? Is it for the present generation, future generation, or the elder generation?
Well, part of what I'm hoping is that I can help people understand that becoming an elder is a choice. And if you, like me, wait until age 70, it's too late. The first thing I learned when I turned 70 and decided to start this journey to becoming an elder was that I had a lot of remedial work to do, a lot of unlearning, that the journey starts much, much, much earlier than that. I say in the book that I'm guessing that the journey really begins the first time we glimpse our mortality. But you know, in our culture, we're in denial that we are mortal. So even though we glimpse that mortality at a very early age, our culture says, oh no, not me, I'm not going to die. So over and over, I have to be reminded that I am mortal and that I am on this journey. So my hope is that this is a book for all ages and that all of us will realize that we have the privilege and the responsibility to make the intentional choice to become an elder.
Right, right, Dr. Sally. So, what have you dealt with in the book? What are the things that are there any requisites to become an elder for a kindergarten? You just have to be a couple of years old and then you can get into it. But what about being getting into elder garden? Do you need to have any special preparation or you can just crack your way into it?
Again, another wonderful question. Thank you for lifting that up. What I've found is that the journey is not easy. In fact, it's discouraging oftentimes. And so, what I need is resilience. I need practices that give me resilience to stay on the journey. And I also need, and here's another paradox, I need a community of trusted people. The paradox is only I can decide to take this individual journey. Only I can make this choice. And it's too hard to do alone. I need a trusted community. When I looked into where resilience comes from, and I love words, so I like to look at the etymology of words, I learned that the root of resilience is the Latin word resilio, which means to jump back. Resilience grows out of practices that allow us to jump back into our lives, our memories, our experiences in order to live into the role of elder and discern the meaning of life. And I share those practices in my book, The Elder Garden, not to say that my practices should be your practices, but with the hope that my practices may help you to notice and to name your own practices.
Wonderful, wonderful, Dr. Saleh. I'm sure a lot of people would like to understand about all these things. One thing that comes to my mind is what is the role of society here as a whole, forgetting about who falls in what age group. What can society do? Because society itself is facing a lot of challenges from every aspect of life, and society is the biggest loser, comprising of all people of all ages. And in fact, certain if you look at it, humanity itself sometimes get questioned whether we will survive in the present form going forward, with onslaught of good AI, not so good AI, and the AI that is yet to be discovered by mankind. So help us understand the role of society here, uh, in understanding more about the wisdom of the elders and taking us forward to to be a better humanity.
As you well understand, society is us. Society is made up of individuals. And I think that one of the things that's happened to us over the years that perhaps our ancient society, our ancestors understood, was that we are nature. Our disconnectedness from nature over the years, I think, has kept us from living into wholeness. And I see wholeness as the essence of becoming an elder, but also of our work on this planet, to recognize that we're all in this together, not only two-leggeds, not only human beings, but all living things, that we have to find ways of respectfully coexisting, of being in right relationship. We must drop into being and reclaim interbeing. That was a word coined by the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh as a word to describe embracing our interdependence with everything. And I think interdependence is a key word here for our society, and a responsibility for all of us to understand our connectedness and to understand that we're only as strong as the weakest link in that chain that holds us all together.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure a lot of people would like to connect with you, learn about you, learn from you, and also learn the path to this thing called Elder Garden. I'm sure. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you, Dr. Sally?
Thank you. I'd love to share my book with anybody that wants it, and it's available in all the online um, places, Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all of that. You can also reach me at Courage to Teach at sc.rr.com. And I'd love to be in contact with you. That in the book, I do have that. And I'm on Facebook as well, so you can find me there. But yes, I really, while the book is important to me and I felt a responsibility to share the book, I call it a field guide because I think this journey is too hard to do without a field guide. And the field that I'm guiding us to is the field that the Sufi poet Rumi talked about years and years ago. Rumi said that on the other side of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. That's the field where I hope to go with this field guide.
Wonderful, wonderful. With these great words of wisdom, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.